Welcome to NBA Now by Chat Sports. Harrison Graham, Chase Sr. with you. Today's show, 6 teams that could sign Blake Griffin now that he has been bought out by the Detroit Pistons. So we'll get into the news, and then we will take a look at some teams that could go ahead and sign Blake. Agreed to a buyout, Chase, was expected. The contract just wasn't tradable at the end of the day, and now he's free to sign with any team of his choice.
If you've taken a look inside the rumor mill, it's been hot with Blake Griffin and the Pistons coming to an agreement on a buyout. This is what it came down to for the Pistons. They couldn't find a trade partner because that contract that Blake Griffin signed with the Los Angeles Clippers is way too hefty, and nobody wanted to take on that trade, especially when you factor in how far Blake Griffin's numbers have fallen off.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at him right here, because it's unfortunate that one of the best and most exciting athletes in NBA history, a guy who looked to be on a Hall of Fame track, has been derailed by injuries to the capacity that Blake Griffin has. The numbers aren't pretty.
No.
Just a tick over 12 points per game, a tick over 5 rebounds, and what I'm looking at and what I kind of point to and allude to with the field goal percentage and the three-point percentage, all of those leg injuries adding up over time. He doesn't have the same bounce, doesn't have the same push off of his legs, and his numbers from the field have reflected that both in his shooting percentages and his numbers overall across the board.
If Blake Griffin, while you answer this question, who will sign Blake Griffin? 12-5 is not the problem on a contending team.
No.
The efficiency is the problem. If he can go sign with a contender and give you 12-5 off the bench in 20 minutes, sign me up. It's about the efficiency for Blake. So predict it for us. Which team will sign Blake Griffin? Because in just a moment, we'll get into 6 teams that could sign him. First up, and we'll go in inverse order here, number 6, the Boston Celtics. We put them on here, Chase. There's been some chatter. They definitely need a big. I don't know about the fit, though, with Boston.
Yeah, if they can't go after a guy like Nikolai Vucevic or Andre Drummond, if they don't want to part with some of those assets, maybe they go to another option like Blake Griffin. But for me, it doesn't really do much for me, and that's why we have the Boston Celtics number 6 on this list of 6 teams. The Celtics do need some help in the front court, but Harrison and I, we're not sure it's the right fit. It is worth a look, though, because if he's able to come in and put up numbers that he was putting up with Detroit, 12-5, maybe it could be a solid option in the front court, off the bench. I don't know if it's doing it for me if it's Tristan Thompson and Daniel Tice. That's why a possible Blake Griffin to the Celtics move is a possibility. Can he do what these guys do? Yeah, maybe. I think at this point of his career, he's certainly not the same player. He's not going to average 20 and 10, but Tristan Thompson, 7.5 points per game, 8.5 rebounds.
Or at least efficient.
Definitely valuable. Tice, I like the effort that he puts forward, 9.4 points, 5.1 rebounds. It's all solid, shooting 57% from the floor, but I actually think Tristan Thompson and Daniel Tice are better front court options than Blake Griffin because he's going to demand the ball a little bit because of the power of the name.
And the problem with Griffin to the Boston Celtics is he needs the ball in his hands at this point to be effective, and you got 2, if not 3 ball-dominant guys in Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown. Don't love the fit. I do think it's worth a look, though. Definitely something I do love is, come on, these deals. Are you kidding me? Chatsports.com/NBA Green. St. Patty's Day is almost here, and Celtics fans more than any, but we got gear for all NBA teams. Get your gear today. Some of this stuff is on sale at chatsports.com/NBA Green. And here's the deal. We got T-shirts, we got hats, we got socks, we got all kinds of stuff for all 30 NBA teams. You get your St. Patty's gear now, you never have to buy it again because St. Patty's is every single year. Get some green gear, chatsports.com/NBA Green, especially Celtics fans. You could wear that stuff year-round.
Oh, you could, especially St. Patty's or if they make a playoff run.
Exactly.
Either of it works.
The clover, it always applies in Boston. Let's go top 5 here. The Los Angeles Clippers, and I wanted to include them. There's been some slight reporting that there could be some interest there. Things did end a little awkward, though, when they traded him to Detroit.
Certainly, and I think there are still some harsh feelings between Steve Ballmer, the Clippers organization, and Blake Griffin. If you remember, before he got traded, he had just agreed to a massive contract situation, and he gets thanked for all of his miraculous and explosive play with the Clippers, with them sending him to Detroit, a team that's been in the cellar ever since Larry Brown left, and they won that NBA championship. So Clippers as a possible destination, maybe, but I think that the relationship has been tarnished. Could Blake Griffin be re-energized going back to Los Angeles? Maybe that's what he needs. Potentially, but I don't think a reunion is going to happen in Lob City. In fact, I think that if Blake Griffin does sign with the Los Angeles Clippers, it's going to be a little awkward. You'll have a former superstar player who maybe built a Hall of Fame case during his Clippers tenure alone, going back to the team that he starred with, the team that he was on a human highlight reel every single night with Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan, JJ Redick, Doc Rivers, and it puts pressure on the Clippers and it puts pressure on Blake Griffin if he does go back to the Clippers, because everybody's going to expect him to be that player that he was when he was with the Clippers, and it's just not going to happen. That ship has sailed.
I was just going to say that too, is that he goes back to the Clippers, all the fans are pulling out their old 32 jersey. Oh, we got Blake back, let's go, let's make a deep run. I don't hate the fit, honestly, but those expectations are a big problem for Blake and the Clippers, and I'm with you. I think that would be a recipe for disaster.
I want to add this too. The Clippers culture is not that sound right now. Blake Griffin going back there, I don't think it helps that at all.
Yeah, I agree. Should Griffin return to the Clippers? Type Y for yes, type in for no. It sounds like a good story. Don't think it actually would be, though, at the end of the day. Number 4, another team out west. How about the Golden State Warriors, who have been looking to be opportunistic, either on the trade or the buyout market? Again, with Blake, wherever he ends up, this isn't a superstar anymore, but this is kind of a sign low, possible opportunistic move that Golden State could make without having to give up any of their assets.
So Golden State is in the bottom tier of Western Conference playoff teams right now, and it's important to note that 10 teams will make the playoffs because there's that play-in for the last couple of seeds in both the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference. For me, Golden State is like a game over 500 right now. Steph Curry is having an MVP caliber season, and you do not want to waste another prime year for Steph Curry when he's averaging a shade under 30 points per game. So when I look at the possibility of Blake Griffin going to Golden State, I ask myself this, and I want to pose this question for the audience out there. What does this do this year for Golden State? And does Blake Griffin to the Warriors really increase their playoff chances? I don't think so at all.
I think it sells a couple of tickets. You can get some cool Blake Griffin unis if you're a fan, which is great. And I say sells tickets. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Coronavirus still exists. So,
things are looking up, so maybe.
But hey, you never know. By the end of the season, maybe there's a few fans out in the Bay there. But I'm with you. I think more than anything, the problem with Blake, he's more of a name than a big-time player at this point. With all these teams, I think he's worth a look. You just got to manage your expectations if you sign Blake Griffin. Top 3, and I actually like this idea, maybe more than some of the others, the Miami Heat, because this is a deep roster already. You wouldn't be expecting a lot from Blake. Anything he would give you, I think, would be a bonus for Miami, who's finally starting to play like the team that made the NBA Finals last year.
We talk about Blake Griffin having sour feelings for the Clippers when he signed that extension and they traded him to Detroit. This is a guy that's been down and out over the last couple of years. If he goes to Miami, this is a destination where I think that he could be reborn. If I'm a basketball player and I woke up today and I could think about the perfect basketball culture, a culture that was going to extract the best talents out of my inner self, I'd want to go to the Miami Heat.
Yes.
It feels as though every player that goes to Miami improves.
Yeah,
and Miami
seriously
gets the best out of any player there, and they develop players at a really rapid rate.
And you know what else you could do? Bam Adebayo is kind of what Blake was 5 years ago.
He was.
High energetic guy, above the rim player. I think that's a mentor for Bam who's looking to continue to improve. And hey, if I'm Blake, South Beach, come on, I've been in Detroit the past couple of years. Sign me up for that.
That'll make his knees feel a little bit better.
Yes.
And the Heat could use some front court depth as well.
No doubt about it. And you kind of look at Miami, who's, slowly moving up the standings. This is a team like 8 games below 500 at one point. Now they find themselves at the number 6 seed and really outside the top 3. I think Miami could get up into that number 4 seed, which is where they were last year when that made that deep run. Again, Blake's not the missing ingredient for anyone, but could he give you a 10 to 12 energetic minutes off the bench? I think that's definitely a possibility, and Miami would be very intriguing to me if I'm Blake Griffin. Number 2 here, the Los Angeles Lakers. Come on, they're going to be linked to any veteran that hits the open market. Maybe they're the team for Blake Griffin.
Yeah, so Marc Gasol in the playoffs, he's going to bring a lot of value to LA. He's a big, bulky center who's not going to back down from anybody. Defensively, he's still one of the best big men in the league. And at the power forward spot, you have Montrezl Harrell. As backup options, though, there's really nobody. And if you plug Blake Griffin into that lineup coming off the bench, behind Montrezl Harrell, behind Marc Gasol, if you want to go with a smaller lineup. I actually love that addition, but not as much as the next team that we're going to get to. But the Los Angeles Lakers, definitely a team to look out for because LeBron James loves experienced veterans.
And real quick, I'll add this for Griffin and the Lakers. Two things. One, he can go to the Lakers, try and win a championship, something he never did with the Clippers, which, again, that ended kind of ugly.
Yep.
And two, this is a unique situation where he's getting minutes right away if the Lakers sign him because of how thin that front court is. That's a unique opportunity. I think there's definitely going to be some momentum toward the Lakers and a team we'll mention in just a moment. Now, what's the better LA team right now? Type LAL for the Lakers, type LAC for the Clippers. I was all on the Clippers bandwagon last season, and they flamed out in the second round to the Denver Nuggets, but it's a new year. What you thinking today, which LA team is better?
Still going with the Lakers.
Yeah.
What's crazy, and this won't take too long, Kawhi Leonard's field goal percentage in crunch time is actually under 30%.
He's been bad this year.
He's been bad in crunch time. So I'm going with LeBron, the ageless wonder. Best team in the NBA, in my opinion, when Anthony Davis comes back. Certainly the best team in Los Angeles.
Another team that has an argument to be the best team in the NBA, the Brooklyn Nets, who they're becoming like the modern LeBron team in which they've got their stars. Now it's just, let's get any names in here that we can. This feels like a real possibility, especially when you factor in his old pal DeAndre Jordan playing for the Brooklyn Nets as well.
DeAndre Jordan, not the same player he once was with the Clippers, just like Blake Griffin is not the same player that he once was when those two paired up together with the Clippers. But when you look at Blake Griffin possibly going to the Brooklyn Nets, they have been an offensive firepower machine ever since that James Harden trade. And when we get to the playoffs, it's going to be a game of keeping up with the Nets' offensive approach because Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, James Harden, with Joe Harris in there, is an offensive foursome that is absolutely unstoppable. Now, who knows what they're going to be able to do defensively, but on the offensive side of the floor, they're going to be unconscious, right?
Yep.
But what that James Harden trade did for the Nets, it depleted all of their depth because they had to give up a bunch of assets. That James Harden trade was crazy because there were several players who had to be traded in order to bring James Harden in. So you add Blake Griffin to this threesome of James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, all of those guys averaging 25-plus points per game. Blake Griffin, great front court depth for the Brooklyn Nets, which will increase their title odds even further.
And again, a low pressure situation. No one's he's not going to be required to be more than what he needs to be, which would be an energetic guy off the bench. You've got all the scoring you need, but you get a guy on that bench. Maybe he's your 8th or 9th guy, give you 10, 15 minutes a game. He's got that experience. To the Brooklyn Nets will definitely be interested, which that's been reported, and I think it makes a lot of sense for both parties involved. So we asked you at the beginning, let's ask you one more time now that we gave you some teams to think about. Which team will sign Blake Griffin? Predict it for me in the comments section. Where do you guys think Blake ends up? Because I'm guessing he'll sign pretty soon with the NBA All-Star break here. So go ahead and get your predictions in.